The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council floated in the orbit of a dying red star. Its golden walls glowed softly, and hundreds of alien representatives sat in their shining seats. Some had wings, some had scales, and some were just bright lights inside glass containers. It was the heart of galactic power, where every major decision about peace and war was made. But today the hall was silent. No one spoke. No one even breathed loudly. A new message had just arrived. It came from a small blue planet long thought to be dead. The name of that planet was whispered only in jokes or old history books: Earth. The message contained only 2 words. We remember. No one understood it. The translation system showed the same meaning in every alien tongue, but still it made no sense. The words echoed in the room, repeated by the translator drone. We remember. Whispers filled the hall. What does it mean? Asked a tall insectoid. Remember what? Hissed a reptilian general. Another alien laughed nervously. Maybe it's some ancient code. Humans are gone. Everyone knows that. But one alien didn't laugh. Admiral Karen of the Zalari sat still, his 4 eyes focused on the glowing message. His long blue fingers tapped against the metal desk as memories began to rise from the shadows of his mind. He remembered the story, a story most had forgotten. Centuries ago, when the galaxy was still wild and unexplored, a small human ship had drifted near Zalari space. It was damaged beyond repair, engines dead, oxygen running out. The ship's crew sent weak signals begging for help. Most empires ignored it. Humans were not part of the Galactic Council then. They were considered primitive, just a young race from a backwater world. But the Zalari, they answered. Their rescue fleet found the human ship and saved the survivors. There were only a few dozen left, tired, hungry, and broken. The Zalari shared food, gave them shelter, and helped rebuild their ship. Before leaving, the human captain shook Karen's hand. Back then, Karen was still a young officer and said something strange. One day, we will repay this debt, Karen had smiled politely. No one took that promise seriously. What could humans ever offer? They had no power, no armies, no fleets, just fragile bodies and emotional hearts. Now, centuries later, those same 2 words had returned. We remember. The laughter started again in the council hall. Humans? Repay a debt? One alien mocked. They probably sent an old automated signal. Their planet was destroyed long ago. Extinct creatures, another said, chuckling, but Karen didn't join them. He slowly stood up. His voice was low, almost trembling. No, he said. Humans don't forget. The laughter stopped. The room fell quiet again. The Supreme Speaker, a massive floating sphere of light, turned toward him. Admiral Karen, are you suggesting that humans still exist? Karen nodded slowly. If this message is real, then yes. And if they truly remember. We should be ready, the speaker hummed, confused. Ready for what? Karen looked at the glowing message again. For whatever comes next. Outside the hall, deep in space, something unseen began to move. Far across the galaxy, in the cold darkness beyond charted systems, hundreds of silent ships emerged from hyperspace. They were black as shadow, with no symbols, no light, and no sound. Their design was unfamiliar, smooth, predatory, like creatures of the void. They drifted in formation, surrounding an abandoned mining world. The planet's defense grid activated automatically, mistaking them for pirates. The first shot was fired. The human fleet didn't respond with words. It responded with power. One single pulse of light, and the mining planet went dark. Not destroyed, just silent. Every system dead, every weapon frozen. The ships then vanished into hyperspace again, leaving behind no trace except a single repeating transmission beamed across nearby sectors. To the ones who once showed us mercy, we come to repay it. Back at the council, panic grew. Dozens of reports flooded in. Strange disappearances, unknown ships, dead planets. Every system they visited was left untouched except one detail. Only the Zalari colonies were spared. Karen watched the data streams, his heart heavy. It's them, he said quietly. It's the humans, but they saved only your people, whispered the speaker. Karen nodded. Yes, because we once saved them. The other races began to argue, shouting in fear. What do they want? Why are they back now? Are they declaring war? Karen turned toward the great window, looking at the dying star outside. No, he said. They are repaying their debt. And if this is what repayment looks like... He paused, his voice colder now. Then the galaxy should pray they never owe us anything. The chamber fell silent once again. The council members looked at each other, fear slowly replacing arrogance. In that silence far away, a human fleet entered another star system, this time carrying the flag of Earth. And in the shadows of space, war had already begun. The galaxy had not seen true fear in centuries. Wars came and went. Empires rose and fell. But this was different. The name human had returned to every data channel, every encrypted message, and every rumor. Some called them ghosts. Others said they were myths. But now every fleet commander was awake, every government nervous. The Galactic Council gathered again in the Golden Hall, but this time the laughter was gone. The screen showed hundreds of reports, entire star systems going dark, military fleets destroyed in seconds, and strange black ships seen moving through hyperspace corridors that no one else could access. Admiral Kyren of the Zelari stood before the council table. His face looked tired but calm. They are not attacking without reason, he said softly. They are moving with purpose. The insectoid general clicked his claws. Purpose? They are destroying our stations. What kind of purpose is that? Kyren stared at the screen. Look carefully. They have not touched any Zelari world. Not one, every other race, attacked, but ours, untouched. The room filled with whispers. The Supreme Speaker's voice echoed. So you believe these humans are protecting you? Karen nodded slowly. Maybe, or maybe they are sending a message. Far across the stars in a quiet sector known as Nira 9, a Zelari colony waited for help. The Drakkar Dominion, a violent reptilian empire, had launched an invasion days ago. The colony's defense fleet was weak, their shields failing. Drakkar warships circled the planet, preparing for the final strike. Their commander grinned through his fangs. End them, he hissed. Let the galaxy watch them burn. But before the Drakkar ships could fire, the stars around them began to fade. The light dimmed. The sensors froze. And then, they saw them. Dozens of dark ships emerged from nowhere, silent as death. They didn't send warnings or demands. They didn't even announce who they were. The first Drakkar ship exploded before they could even scan the enemy. The second vanished into white fire. Within seconds, the Drakkar fleet, hundreds of warships, was gone. The Zelari colony watched from orbit, stunned. The Black Fleet moved with perfect precision, like living shadows. Then one massive ship, larger than any city, slowly descended toward the colony's orbit. It sent only one short transmission. To the ones who once showed mercy, and we return the favor. The Zelari governor, trembling, replied, Are you humans? The screen flickered. For a moment a human face appeared, pale, calm, with eyes that looked ancient. The voice spoke in a tone that carried both kindness and warning. We are what your ancestors once saved. You gave us life when the stars turned against us. Today we give you safety. Leave the rest to us. Then the transmission ended. Within hours the human fleet disappeared again. Not a single ship left behind, not even an energy trace. The only thing remaining was silence and wreckage. News of the silent fleet spread like wildfire. Every empire wanted answers. Who controlled these humans? Where did they come from? How did they build such power without being detected? No one knew. A rumor began that humanity had gone beyond the edge of the galaxy, to the dead systems where no light traveled and no life survived. There they had rebuilt themselves in secret, evolving their technology far beyond anything the Council could imagine. Some said humans no longer lived as flesh, that they had merged with machines, becoming one with their ships. Others claimed they had discovered something worse, a weapon that could erase entire planets without fire or radiation. No one dared to test them. Back in the Galactic Council, panic turned to fear, and fear turned to silence. The Supreme Speaker demanded, we must reach them. We must open communication. Admiral Karen stood. I can try, he said. If they remember us, they might answer me. He was given command of a diplomatic ship, the Vala's Hope, and sent toward the outer rim, following the last known coordinates of the human fleet. Days passed. The stars grew darker as the ship moved beyond mapped space. There were no signals, no stations, no signs of life. Only silence, then suddenly in a voice. "Turn back." It echoed through the comms even though no channel was open. The crew froze. Karen stepped forward. "This is Admiral Karen of the Zilari. We come in peace. We seek an audience with humanity." There was a pause. Then slowly a shadow appeared ahead. A massive ship, dark and endless like a floating mountain. It blotted out the stars. "You speak for your kind?" the voice asked. "Yes," Karen said carefully, "and for the council." "Then listen," the voice replied. "We remember your kindness. That is why your worlds still breathe. But the others, and they forgot mercy long ago. And now they will remember fear." The transmission ended. Karen's crew. The galaxy was burning, not with fire but with fear. Every empire that once laughed at the name human was now watching the skies, waiting for the dark ships to appear. The Silent Fleet, as it was now called, moved like a storm, unseen, unheard, unstoppable. Worlds that had once conquered others now begged for peace. Fleets that had once ruled sectors were now hiding in asteroid fields. But one world stood untouched, the home of the Zilari. For reasons no one could explain, the humans had protected them. Every time a foreign invader approached, human ships appeared first. Every time the Zilari sent a distress call, the response was instant, quiet, effective, deadly. They didn't ask for payment. They didn't demand land or power. They simply appeared, saved lives, and vanished. Some called it mercy. Others called it vengeance. Admiral Karen sat alone in his quarters aboard the Vala's Hope. The room was dimly lit, filled with holograms of recent attacks. Every image told the same story: human ships appearing out of nowhere, destroying enemies, and disappearing again. He whispered to himself, "You said you would repay the debt. But what are you becoming?" The door opened softly. His second-in-command, Captain Thera, entered. Her voice trembled slightly. "Admiral, new reports just came in. The Drakkar Dominion, they're gone." Karen frowned. "Gone? How?" Thera showed the screen. "Every planet, every fleet, wiped out. No explosions, no radiation, just silence. Like they were erased." Karen leaned back slowly. His voice was heavy. "The Drakkar were the ones who invaded our colony. Humans saved it. Now they're erasing the enemy completely." Thera looked at him with fear. "That's not mercy, sir." "No," Karen said quietly. "That's justice, human justice." At the Galactic Council, the situation grew desperate. Representatives of dozens of races shouted over one another. "They're out of control. They're killing billions. They will come for us next." The Supreme Speaker, glowing faintly in the center of the chamber, tried to calm them. "We must find their leader. If they still remember the Zilari, then perhaps Admiral Karen can reach them again." The name Karen echoed through the hall. He was the only being alive who had spoken to the humans face to face. He was their only chance. Within hours, a message was sent to the Vala's Hope. "Admiral Karen, you are hereby ordered to establish contact with the human fleet and negotiate peace before the galaxy collapses." Karen accepted the mission silently, but deep down he knew the truth. This was no war that could be stopped with words. 2 days later, his ship entered a sector called the Veil, a dark zone no probe had ever returned from. Sensors flickered. Lights dimmed. And then out of the black came thousands of shapes. Human ships, massive, silent, surrounding them like shadows. Karen stood at the viewing window, heart pounding. His voice was calm, but his hands trembled. "Open a channel." The crew obeyed. A few seconds later, the same deep voice filled the bridge. "You again?" Karen spoke slowly. "We need to talk. The Council fears you. They believe you will destroy us all." The voice replied, "We already destroyed enough. Those who brought suffering, they are gone. Those who showed kindness, and they are safe." Karen frowned. "You call it kindness, but what you're doing looks like vengeance." A pause. Then the voice answered, "Kindness and vengeance are the same coin, Admiral. It depends which side you stand on." The ship's systems flickered. For a brief second, Karen saw something on the screen. A human face, half in light, half in shadow. Eyes old as the stars themselves. "We gave mercy when we were weak," the human said. "Now we give it when we are strong. The galaxy must learn the weight of mercy." Then the transmission ended. Hours later, news spread again. Another empire had fallen. This time, the Vorkathi Combine, known for enslaving entire planets, had vanished without a single shot fired. Their worlds were left quiet, untouched, but empty. The Galactic Council was now in full panic. Every empire began sending surrender messages to Earth's old coordinates, begging for peace. Even though they didn't know if anyone was listening, Admiral Karen, now back at the Council, tried to explain. They are not at war with us. They are balancing something older, a debt, but no one believed him. To them, humans had become gods of death. Then something unexpected happened. One night in the middle of the Council's emergency session, every screen across the galaxy turned black. Static. Then a voice. This is not war. This is remembrance. We do not conquer. We repay. The image shifted, showing dozens of alien species kneeling before human soldiers from the ancient era. Their faces tired but kind, the voice continued. A long time ago, you turned away from mercy. But one race, one single world, did not. They shared with us food, water, and hope. Today, humanity gives that hope back. To them, we give life. To the cruel, we give silence. The message ended with one phrase: debt repaid, balance restored. For days, the galaxy was quiet. No more attacks, no more disappearances, just an endless, waiting silence. Admiral Karen walked alone through the observation deck of the Council station. The stars seemed colder now. Captain Thera joined him. Do you think it's over? She asked. Karen looked at the distant darkness where the human fleet had vanished. No, he said softly. It's just beginning, she frowned. Why? He turned to her, his eyes filled with both sorrow and awe. Because now that the galaxy fears them, humanity will decide whether they want to be gods or guardians. And somewhere far beyond known space, the silent fleet gathered once again, preparing for something even greater. A message was already forming, waiting to be sent. It began with two familiar words. We remember. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was silent. No warfleets moved. No broadcasts screamed threats. Only whispers passed from one world to another, yanked on about them, the humans, the race that vanished into darkness, and returned as shadows. Every planet, every empire, every commander had one question no one could answer. What will they do next? In the heart of the Galactic Council, tension was like a storm. Dozens of alien leaders floated, hissed, and clicked in panic. We must strike first, shouted the Drawl Emperor. Strike humans? Another answered. You can't even find them. The Supreme Speaker dimmed its light, trying to calm the room. Violence will not save us. Perhaps we can reason with them. But a new voice spoke, calm and firm. It was Admiral Karen of the Zilari. Reasoning won't help. You can't reason with ghosts. They are doing what they promised, repaying debts. To some with mercy, to others with silence. The speaker turned its light toward him. And which one will we receive, Admiral? Karen looked up. His face was cold. That depends on what the galaxy becomes after this. Far away, deep in the uncharted systems, a fleet of human ships moved quietly through the void. They were not made of steel anymore. Their surfaces were smooth, black, and alive, almost breathing. No engines were visible. They moved like thoughts across space. Inside one of those ships, a single human, Commander Aaron Solis, stood before a large window. His eyes were bright and calm, filled with something powerful yet heavy, sorrow. A younger officer approached him. Commander, the Council's transmission arrived. They want a truce. Aaron didn't look away from the stars. A truce? He said softly. They didn't ask for truce when they burned our homeworlds. The officer hesitated. But the Zilari helped us. We already protected them. Aaron finally turned, his voice steady. Yes, the kind are safe, but the cruel still breathe. Balance must be kept. He walked forward and placed his hand on a glowing panel. The hologram of the galaxy appeared, thousands of dots representing living systems. He touched one, the Vrax Dominion. The system turned red. Begin, he ordered. Moments later, across the galaxy, the Vrax Dominion's communication arrays went silent. Then the lights of their planets began to flicker, power failing, ships falling from orbit. No explosions, no screams, no trace of war, just silence. When the first explorers entered the system days later, they found everything perfectly preserved, cities, ships, even meals still on tables. but not a single living being remained. The humans had taken their lives without touching a single wall. It was not destruction. It was a warning. Back at the council, panic exploded once again. "They've wiped out the wrecks," screamed a delegate. "This is genocide. They must be stopped." But no one knew how. Their ships couldn't find the human fleet. Their weapons couldn't lock on them. It was like trying to fight the wind. Amid the shouting, Admiral Karen stood up. His voice rose above them all. "Enough. You all created this. You built empires on slavery, greed, and fear. Now that fear has come home, and you call it vengeance." The hall went silent. Karen pointed toward the screen showing the destroyed wrack system. "They are teaching us what mercy truly costs. That mercy is power, and we wasted it for ages." The speaker turned toward him. "And what do you suggest we do, Admiral?" Karen closed his eyes. "Remember, that's all they asked for." Later that night, alone in his ship, Karen looked out the window. He remembered the human captain from centuries ago, the one they had saved when humanity was dying. That man had been weak, tired, yet his eyes held a strange fire. Karen remembered his final words before leaving. "If we live, we will not forget. And one day you will see what that means." Now Karen finally understood. They hadn't returned for revenge. They had returned to remind the galaxy of its forgotten heart, compassion. But they had turned that compassion into a weapon so powerful. For months the galaxy remained quiet. No new attacks. No human ships. No messages. It was as if the storm had passed, leaving behind an uneasy calm. But everyone knew this peace was not natural. It was the kind of silence that comes before another wave. The Galactic Council rebuilt what it could. Destroyed fleets were replaced, trade routes reopened, and colonies tried to forget the fear that had once gripped them. But forgetting was impossible. Every world still remembered the words that had echoed across every communication line. "We have repaid that mercy." And every child was now taught the same lesson. Never forget kindness. Never provoke the humans. In the council chamber, Admiral Karen of the Zelari stood before the glowing table. His blue eyes looked tired. He had become the galaxy's most respected voice, the only one who had spoken to humanity and lived. The Supreme Speaker addressed him. "Admiral, the people are afraid again. Our ships have detected strange movements near the galactic core." Karen frowned. "Human ships?" "Unknown," the speaker replied. "But they match the same dark energy signatures as the silent fleet." Karen sighed softly. "Then they've returned." The speaker's glow dimmed. "What do they want this time?" Karen looked at the stars on the holographic map and whispered, "To show us the truth." At that same moment, far beyond the Council's reach, in the darkness between galaxies, humanity had gathered again. Thousands of ships and black, quiet, massive, formed a ring around the galactic core, the place where no life had ever dared to go. Inside the flagship Erebus, Commander Aaron Solis stood before a huge projection of the galaxy. Next to him, a circle of tall figures in gray armor waited silently. The Ascendants, the human leaders who had guided their kind for centuries in the shadows. One of them spoke. "It is time, Commander. The galaxy believes we are gone. They fear us, but they do not understand what we became." Aaron nodded slowly. "Then we show them." He placed his hand on the control panel. The galaxy map turned crimson. "Activate the Revelation Protocol." In the heart of the galaxy, every satellite, every beacon, every signal suddenly froze. Then, all across the stars, every screen turned black, and a single image appeared, a human face. Calm, cold, ancient. "To all who can hear this," the voice began, "this is humanity." The council chamber went silent as the transmission filled the room. Every delegate stared in shock. The voice continued, "We vanished centuries ago, not in defeat but in choice. While you fought for power, we built something greater. You called it extinction. We called it evolution." The image shifted, showing planets with metallic oceans, machines building cities that floated in the void, and vast towers rising on dead worlds. "We learned to merge flesh with light, thought with matter. We became one mind, one will, one memory. We became the Singularity Network, the first true unity in this galaxy." Aliens across the stars gasped in disbelief. They realized the truth. Humanity had gone beyond life and death. They had become something else entirely. a living network of knowledge and power. The voice spoke again. We did not return for conquest. We returned to remind you of what you forgot, mercy. One race showed it when no one else did. For that they live. For the rest we leave a warning. The image faded, replaced by a symbol, the flag of old Earth shining like a sun. Do not mistake our silence for weakness. We see everything. We remember everything. And if the galaxy falls into darkness again, we will return. Then, as suddenly as it came, the signal ended. For several minutes no one spoke in the council. Some cried. Some trembled. And some, like Karen, just stood in awe. Finally, the Supreme Speaker whispered, "They are gods now." Karen shook his head. No, not gods. Just humans, remembering their promise. Later that night, Karen stood on his balcony watching the stars. Captain Thera joined him. Do you think they'll ever come back? Karen smiled faintly. They never left. They're watching, waiting to see if we learned their lesson. Thera looked up at the night sky. Do you think we have? Karen didn't answer. He just watched as one star in the distance blinked, once, twice, and as if responding. He smiled sadly. They heard you. Meanwhile, far in the void, inside the flagship Erebus, Commander Aaron Solis received a soft alert. A signal from the Zilari homeworld, a message of peace, carrying one simple sentence. We remember too. Aaron read it, and for the first time in centuries, he smiled. He turned to the stars and spoke quietly. Then maybe, Admiral, there is still hope for your kind. He looked at the glowing core of the galaxy, pulsing like a living heart. Around it, the silent fleet held position, guarding the center of creation itself, not as conquerors, but as watchers. Let them grow, Aaron said softly. Let them learn. But if they forget again, he paused, his voice turning to steel, we will remind them. From that day on, every planet, every empire, every species changed.
Slavery ended.
War slowed. No one wanted to test the patience of the humans. The Zilari became the bridge between races, the messengers of peace. And every school in every world taught one lesson written on ancient earth stones. Kindness is remembered. Cruelty is punished. And humanity never forgets, but somewhere, deep beyond the galactic rim, a new signal stirred. Faint, distant, coming from another galaxy entirely. A voice whispered through the darkness. We found them. Commander Aaron looked toward the stars. His eyes hardened. Another galaxy? He murmured. Then perhaps, it's time we remember again. The fleet's engines awoke like thunder in the void. And once more, the universe would learn the same ancient truth. When humans remember, the stars themselves tremble. The galaxy had changed. Peace spread like light across the stars. For the first time in thousands of years, no wars burned between species. No planets were enslaved. No fleets attacked one another. But peace did not come from treaties or hope. It came from fear. Fear of one name whispered in every corner of the universe. Humans. The silent fleet was gone now, vanished into deep space. Yet every alien leader knew that if they did anything cruel, anything unjust, the humans would return, and when humans returned and worlds burned, the Galactic Council built a new capital, a shining city orbiting the twin suns of Velara. It was a symbol of unity. There, leaders from hundreds of species gathered, trying to rebuild what had been lost. But even in this age of light, one question still haunted them all. Where did the humans go? No one had seen them since the revelation. No new signals, no messages, only silence. And that silence felt heavier than war. One day, a message arrived. Small, weak, and almost lost in the noise of the stars. It came from the edge of the galaxy, from an explorer ship called Serenlight. The message was only 2 words. They're coming. At first the council didn't believe it. Impossible, said one alien leader. Humans don't come without reason. But Admiral Karen of the Zilari, now old and wise, looked out at the stars. They always have a reason, he said softly. Within hours, telescopes across the galaxy picked up movement, massive silent shapes cutting through the void. The same dark ships that had vanished years ago were returning, but this time they were not alone. Behind them came enormous structures, glowing rings larger than moons, moving like living machines. Each one pulsed with blue light like the beating heart of a god. The galaxy froze in fear. "Are they invading?" someone whispered. "No," said Karen quietly. "They're building." Soon every star system watched in awe as the humans began constructing something vast, something that connected the stars themselves. A network of energy bridges linking worlds, teleportation gates that turned light years into seconds. The humans called it the Unity Web. It connected planets that once fought each other. It opened paths between old enemies and new friends. For the first time, every race could travel freely, without war, without greed. But the humans didn't ask for thanks. They didn't demand power. They built and disappeared again into the dark. The council decided to send a message, a simple call of gratitude. They recorded it carefully, with every leader speaking one line. "To humanity, the galaxy remembers. You repaid mercy with peace. You repaid cruelty with justice. And you repaid your debt with hope. Thank you." The message was sent into the stars to every known frequency. No one expected an answer, but one came. The sky above the council's capital turned dark. Every star went silent, and then a single voice spoke through every ship, every device, every heart. It was calm, strong, human. "We hear you." The crowd froze. The voice continued, "You have done well. For centuries we watched your wars, your hate, your greed. But now we see something new, unity. The debt is finally repaid." The suns above the council began to glow brighter. And then from the darkness a single human ship appeared, golden, not black. It shone like dawn. It carried no weapons, only a message. From the ship's core a hologram appeared, a tall human in white armor, his face calm and kind. "We are the guardians now," he said. "Not rulers, not gods. We protect balance. We protect life, and we will never forget those who helped us rise." Admiral Karen stepped forward. His voice shook as he spoke. "You repaid your debt 1,000 times over, but will you ever return to live among us again?" The human smiled. "Perhaps one day. When the stars are ready. When mercy no longer needs fear to survive." Karen bowed his head deeply. Around him every alien followed. Hundreds of species united in silence. It was not fear now. It was respect. It was gratitude. That day, for the